All right, guys, welcome back. This is episode 26. This is the Let's Talk Ball pod. I am back with Spain, and we are ready or excited to get back into it. We've got a special episode for you guys this week. We are going to be ranking our favorite Premier League players from every single team. So, not exactly the best players, but just our favorite players for various reasons. We'll discuss them one by one, team by team. But before we hop into that, Spain, how are you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, solid weekend. Watched a little bit of the FA Cup, but I really only watched the Fulham Crystal Palace game because of the implications with playing Arsenal, where we're going to be over there. But yeah, other than that, just stayed away from soccer. Didn't really watch too much basketball with the NCAA tournament going on. But yeah, good weekend. How was yours?
Yeah, my weekend was good as well. All right. So, the way this is going to work, we are going to go one by one. It's almost alphabetical order, but not really. I just honestly was playing a game with myself to see if I could name every single Premier League team without looking it up. So that's how the list got created. So not quite alphabetical order, but I tried to do that. And we'll both name players. We might have the same. I can't remember if I double checked. We might have the same for like one or two, but we will definitely try and bring up different players for each team, and just kind of give our little spiel on why we picked that player. So, without further ado, I want to start with Bournemouth. Spain, who is your player that you picked for Bournemouth?
I picked Tyler Adams, the American.
Nice.
Do you want to say both, and then I'll start and then kind of give a spiel like why I picked him, and then you'll give yours and give a little spiel.
Yeah, you can go. Say your player and then give your spiel, and then we can discuss if we need, and then move on to the next one.
Cool. So I picked him definitely because of my bias towards being a U.S. men's national team fan and him playing for the national team. But I also just really love the way he plays. He's a really combative midfielder. He's really got that fight in him. He's got that dog in him, which is like something you don't really like use that term in soccer terms. But because he's an American, I feel like it really attributes to him, and you can use that to say he's got that dog in him. And I like the way he kind of approaches the game. He feels like a true American playing in Europe and kind of out of place. In the sense that he's always kind of picking a fight with players. He really hates when someone dives. He'll put in like a hard tackle and then complain to the ref like as if there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's kind of how soccer has been played in America since when he's been growing up, and maybe be changing a little bit now with more of the European influence in it. But I just really kind of see that American spirit in him, and him not really changing to the European ways and kind of going against the grain in that sense. But yeah, I think he's a fantastic player and a great leader. And I like just the Americanness to him.
Yeah, I can definitely echo what you say as far as like just his mentality and the attitude that he brings on the pitch with him every single time he plays. And I think it fits in really well to what Bournemouth have going, where like they kind of play this like high octane style of football where they're like pressing high. They definitely like to get at teams, counter press, and Tyler Adams is like, I think that really fits him. He can kind of just fly over the pitch and put in tackles everywhere. I think him and I don't know if it's Ryan Christie or Cook that are like 1 and 2 for like most tackles put in or most duels entered for per player on the team. Mm-hmm. But it's really exciting, not exciting, but really fun to watch a player like Tyler Adams kind of run all over the field and like make an impact. And like, because I feel like some of the players you like to see and talk about are these players that are super techie and like doing some of the flashier stuff, but I kind of like the no nonsense-ness of Tyler Adams and the way he just gets about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he loves a good tackle, and off the field he seems really cool and chill. So a little different than on the field.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, the Bournemouth player that I picked, this might be a obvious one or like a popular one, but I went with Semenyo. I think Semenyo is just eye test looking at him play. He looks at such a good player. He's an all action kind of guy. He's in and around goals and assists, not like the craziest output for a forward player, but I like that no matter what happens for Bournemouth, whether he's playing wing back or playing more of an inside forward or a traditional winger, like he's also played through the middle. They put him everywhere, and I think that's a sign of a really good player. If the coach just decides it doesn't matter what role you're playing, we just need you on the field, I think that says a lot. And I like that he does it both offensively and defensively. Like I said, he's got decent output this season. He's top 5 or 10 in dribble success or successful dribbles in the Prem this season. And then on top of that, he's also second in duels won across the Prem, which is kind of crazy for him being like considered more of an attacking player.
Hmm.
He is only behind Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle, and he's ahead of all sorts of other players in the league, which is really cool to see for a player like him. Like he just is not afraid to get stuck in and really put in effort both offensively and defensively. So that's why I picked him.
Yeah, I love Semenyo. He's plays 90 minutes every single game. Bournemouth have a ton of talent this year, and especially on the wing and the forward positions, and you never see him get dropped. So you know that Uraiola really trusts him and really likes Semenyo, and he plays every single game, and he's got a great engine on him. So I think Semenyo's a great pick. He's always happy to shoot, even though sometimes he's super far out and it's pretty unlikely. But I respect his
Yeah.
mentality for always taking the shot on.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the one thing I could kind of knock him on is he's got a pretty crazy amount of shots to not have the shot conversion rate to go with it.
Hmm.
But man, shoot or shoot, they say.
Yeah, I think just a Bournemouth as a whole or larger picture, they were the hardest team I think for me to pick a favorite player for. Thinking back after 'cause I started with Bournemouth and got to Ty Adams really quickly, but the further I went through different teams and looking back on Bournemouth how we were talking about them, I think they're probably the hardest team apart from Arsenal for me personally to pick from because they have so many likable players and so much talent on that team with Dean Hoytson, Kirkes, Clivert, Evan Nilsson, and who plays on the left for them? I guess it's
I mean, they have Wataru Dango as well.
Ouattara. Yeah,
Or Dango
Ouattara's a
Wataru.
beast. I
Yeah.
mean, they're all like really talented and great form this season and likable and fun. A lot of teams either they'd have not that much talent going for them, so it's hard to pick someone, or they are a talented player and I dislike the player because of their attitude, the way they play, or because they did something specific that put a bad memory in my head against Arsenal or something. But Bournemouth have so many players to pick from for this list.
Yeah. Yeah, I also thought this was kind of a hard one, and like I just went with Semenyo because he was probably like the first person that came to mind. But totally agree. Like I think Dean Howson is another one that's like flying up the ranks for me. He's just a chill dude. Like I love the way he goes about his business on the field. I like the short sock aesthetic for a center back, which I feel like isn't like very common. Like he just seems like
No.
he's like a very like he's not only quality but just seems like a likable guy as well.
Yeah, he's a beast too.
Exactly. Exactly.
That pass
Let's
he
move
had in the
on.
Nations,
Oh, go ahead.
that pass he had in the Nations League game that led to a goal was pretty sweet. I think he played that ball
Yeah,
to Lamine Yamal.
Yamal.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Look, really cool seeing those two link up. Future of Spain right there.
It's gonna be scary.
Let's move on to Aston Villa. I will go first for this one. I kind of cheated because he's a lone player, but I want my boy Marcus Rashford. Um, I feel like this can kind of go without much explanation, but Marcus Rashford is would have been my pick for Manchester United if he was still on Manchester United. Therefore, I picked him out of the Villa crop of players. Honorable mention to John Duran. If I would have picked him if he was still on the team, he was box office as well. But Marcus Rashford, I think, is just when he's playing at his best, is just really fun to watch. He takes players on. He'll take on double teams if he needs to. He's got a cracking shot on him. Like his ball striking can be nuts at times as well. And he just seems like the type of player that can kind of break a game and score a goal out of nothing. And so he's just one of my favorite players to watch from that regard, but also I've got emotional ties to him in the sense of coming up as a Manchester United fan. He was one of the first, at least when I felt like I watched it and I was like, oh, that could be me type of deal almost. Like he kind of came up around the same time as I was growing up. I forget when what year he made his debut, but it was like under Van Hall. And so I guess I just have that emotional attachment to Rashford in the sense that like he was the first academy player that like came through and really exploded into at least can be an elite player at times. Like he hasn't quite shown it consistently over the last like year or two, but I think because of the impact that he made coming out of the United Academy, he is right up there for one of my favorite players ever for United.
Nice, yeah, that's fair. He definitely gave a lot of good memories to the United fans, even though things aren't going great for him or weren't going great earlier. He's turning things around at Aston Villa, so I'm happy to see that for him.
Yeah. What about you? Who was your pick?
So Villa was one of the teams that I found kind of tough, even though they're up there in the table and are going late into the FA Cup and the Champions League. Just because of kind of the way they play, like I respect Unai Emery a lot, but they don't play the most exciting soccer until like recently. I think a big reason why, in my opinion, it's gotten more exciting is because of the new signings they brought in on loan, which is Rashford and Asensio. Asensio is my pick because I think he's a super talented, quality player. I've watched him for many of years now, playing in Spain, and kind of fell off the map. I forgot about him. Wasn't even sure if he was still playing, honestly. Don't know where he came from, if I'm being honest.
It's PSG. He was over. He was in the PSG.
See?
Just like couldn't even get into the team.
Yeah, exactly. Had no idea he was at PSG, or probably did, but forgot. But once he came in and was able to play in the 10, which is where he really wanted to play, you could see him scoring goals immediately. So you can still see he's got that class to him. That's why I picked him, just because, one, I don't like that many Villa players because of recent history with Arsenal being kind of tough against us. But he's super quality and been watching for years.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I think that was one of the players I would have considered had I not picked Rashford. And I agree with what you said about Villa being kind of boring to watch prior to their arrivals. I feel like those two have really linked up well and are both like, I think Asensio just seems to be so intelligent with like, I don't know, the spaces that he picks up and like just seems to like always be in the right position. And I'm glad he's getting a kind of a not second chance at football life. He's always been a quality player, but at PSG, he seemed like he just wasn't getting the playing time that he needed or the situation around him that he needed. And it seems like Unai Emery's been able to do that, and I think he's only going to continue to get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like an intelligent player, especially intelligent center midfielder, having been the position I played growing up throughout all my life. So he's definitely that. And like you said, the way he pops up in positions and finishes, does the late run or just like kind of like finds a space to sit in for the cutback is what he's really good at. Is where he's been finding his goals for Villa. So yeah, he's my pick.
Yep, nice. So moving on to the next team, this is your club. Who would you say is your favorite Arsenal player?
I mean, this is easy. It's got to be Bukayo Saka. He's every player's favorite player. That's kind of like a fun thing for people to say nowadays. But if you talk to anyone on the England team, there were so many interviews, and everyone says Saka's the best. You see that smile, and you just can't help but like be happy. He's got an incredible mentality. He's incredibly talented. The best out of Foden and Cole Palmer, hands down. I know that's a lot of the current debate that's going on. But yeah, Saka's come up through the academy. He's Arsenal true and true. He's our star boy. He's done everything for us, and you just can't help but love him.
Yeah,
I don't need to say too much more on his talent because everyone knows how good he is. But it's really just coming up through the ranks of Arsenal, coming in early. I've been a huge Arsenal fan for a long time, so I saw him come through in the Aubameyang, Lacazette era, being nicknamed the Little Pepper, Little Chili, and just seeing him grow into the star he is has been phenomenal.
Yeah. I was also, spoiler, going to pick Saka. I'll give a couple honorable mentions after this, but I'll piggyback off of what you were saying. He just is just too likable of a player and too good of a player to not really pick Saka. I feel like I totally hear what you're saying with like the England players and how much they love being around him, and he just gives off an energy of someone that's like just a great all-around guy on top of being actually good at the sport as well. And I do love that he has one of my favorite things that came out of his injury was that he won that Cole Palmer and Phil Foden debate when he wasn't even playing, which I think is just hilarious as well.
It really is.
But for my honorable mentions as Arsenal players, I would want to say two, even though that's kind of cheating. I want to say Declan Rice. I think he is still a bit of an unsung hero. People like to throw around that 100 mil price tag and say he's not this, he's not that. I saw on, not to call out another podcast, but I saw on Filthy Fellas that guy was kind of disrespecting Declan Rice, saying he can't receive the ball on a half turn, that he's not even as good a midfielder as McAllister, or I forget who else he said. I think he said like Bruno G and a couple other guys, which, like, don't get me wrong, like, all quality players, but I think that's really disrespectful to Declan Rice. He's super quality on the ball. He's all over the pitch, reads the game so well that like he almost doesn't have to do hard things that look super flashy to some players because he just keeps it simple but also effective. And so I just want to say I think Declan Rice does not get enough credit for how good of a player he is, and he's been one of my favorite players to watch even prior to his arrival at Arsenal.
Yep.
And
just
then,
on Rice real quick, and we're in such a good era right now for Arsenal. It is easy for him to kind of be looked over because he just does the things, the little things to keep the team in the good position. Like the pressing he does is really phenomenal. So if you don't really watch him all the time or pay attention to him, I can see why someone doesn't think he's like that great. But he is super underrated in my opinion, and was my player of the season last year for us.
Yeah, I think he's been a quiet leader for Arsenal, especially during this season with a bunch of injuries. I said that on our last podcast, actually, I think. But I'll just reiterate that point. And then other guy I want to shout out is who's come into the ranks very recently is Lewis Skelly. Kind of like I liked watching him. Like I kind of knew of him when he was in the academy still, just because I followed a couple academy accounts and whatnot that followed some of the top talents in the country. But then seeing him come up and getting to see a little bit more of his personality as well. Like I didn't realize how much of like a dog he had in him, and like how like almost like it's like a very controlled, and it's like the right amount of arrogance that he has to him that I love. And I loved the way he celebrated against City when he scored and did the Haaland celebration. I think it was after Haaland said like, "Who even are you?" or something like that as well. So I just love to see his ascendancy. And then again, over this international break, he gets his England call up. Some people are saying he shouldn't have got it. There was a picture of him that went viral on Twitter for the wrong reasons, of people quote tweeting and saying all sorts of crazy stuff about him and nasty stuff. And so seeing him go out and score his goal in his England debut like that was awesome to see as well. Just a fun player to watch.
Yeah, I really love seeing Lewis Skelly get his goal on his debut. That's huge. I saw an interview recently with his mom right after this international break, and she was obviously really happy for him, and she gave a little insight, and it was cool to hear that he does a lot of vision boarding, so he kind of manifested all this, and you can see he's taking it in stride and has been very mentally prepared for it. So it kind of goes a lot to his mental preparation that he does in the background to get himself to this moment, because he has had one of like the quickest, craziest rises in terms of all the the red cards he's been getting, the hate comments, the goals. It's been a whirlwind of him this season, but I think he's handled it really maturely, even though a lot of people might disagree. He has handled it maturely and deserves to be where he's at and all the success he's gained.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's underrated and under-discussed how much pressure and how quickly your life can change as one of these players that comes into the first team at such a young age and is successful at that. It unleashes a whole new world of haters and this and that you got to deal with that you might not have. Like, you always know it's there, but like when it starts happening to you, I think it's more difficult to deal with than people give it credit.
Adam Modzik, not to name names, is one of his big haters.
Yeah, exactly.
Our former Newcastle ITK guest appearance. But no, happy for him.
He did say Lewis Skelly ain't too bad after he posted a picture of Dan Bird.
Yeah, that was hilarious to see them, an 18-year-old and a 32-year-old getting their first international call-up. One's Lewis Skelly's probably 5'11", and Dan Burns freaking 7 feet. So just the juxtaposition of those two players sitting next to each other in multiple fronts getting their first England cap was awesome.
Yeah, it was. It was really wholesome to see. So let's move on to Brighton. So if I had to pick my favorite Brighton player, I'm going to go with Carlos Baleba. And this was a really tough one for me. Brighton, I didn't know who I wanted to pick between him or probably Matoma, and then Welbeck was one that I loved. But I feel like I kind of knew you were going to pick Welbeck, so I stayed away from that one. I'll let you have that. But Baleba is one that I picked because I just think he's such a good midfielder. Physically, he's just a monster. He's such a big body in midfield, super athletic, fast, long strides, eats up ground, defensively. but then also super quality and technical on the ball as well. Like he's one of the better ball carriers that I've seen for someone that's his size. And I think he can be truly, truly elite for like he can play for one of the top clubs if he just continues to work on that passing range and some of his decision making. I think that
Hmm.
I've seen him do a couple bonehead things, but he's young. I think I don't want to misquote his age, but I think he's like 20 or something like that.
I
Like he's
think it's
still
20.
really,
Yeah.
really young. I think all that can come with experience. And so he's just a player that I find really fun to watch from Brighton.
Nice, yeah, great pick. I remember watching him. I was like, heard his name, but I remember one game I was watching his highlights and was blown away by how good he was. So I think really does come down to his decision making because he's got a lot of the raw skills. Like he's super athletic. He's got that passing range. So if he does just kind of nail down that decision making, which is super important for a midfielder, center midfielder, then he could be a star. Great pick. I went with Danny Welbeck, as you guessed, rightly so. Former Arsenal player, also former United player. I'd say he probably had a better Arsenal career. I mean, he came onto the scene with United and maybe had like a longer run there. So it's hard to say, but he left a pretty good memory in my mind. One of the reasons why I'm pretty sure was in the FA Cup where he scored to beat United against his own team. But he was definitely a part of one of our FA Cup runs, and just always liked the guy. And then but he just never quite like the finisher that you wanted him. He'd get the chances, and then one-on-one would never quite take his finishing. But this year, he's really been finishing everything. He's been awesome to watch. I think he's up to 36, 34 years old.
Something like that, yeah.
But I just love to see his growth and the improvement he's had so late in his career because he is calm and takes his time to compose himself. And I think just maybe comes with maturity. But yeah, just really happy for him. And he's just an upstanding guy. Another guy with a really nice smile like Saka that kind of just brightens you up when you see him smile. And his post-game interviews are great. So I'm picking him, one, because he's a former Arsenal player, but I love to watch his getting better late in his career.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said. I think he's someone that's like one of those players I just feel like I can't help but root for. Just seems like a good guy, and like I agree, he's matured so much in the tail end of his career and is becoming lethal in front of goal as well. On top of that, I think he's been like really, really important to what Brighton's done this year. And then from a Manchester United perspective, like I think I agree with this, and I think other players have even come out and said the same thing, that they thought it was a mistake to let Danny Welbeck go way back when. I think it was just kind of like a timing thing with, I forget who we had at the time that he was competing with or who we were trying to bring in, but it basically was like don't necessarily want to let him go, but in order to make stuff happen elsewhere, it just kind of had to happen. And I wish he got more time at United, but anyway, just a player that I love to watch, and I love seeing him succeed.
I see. We could agree on that one.
Nice. So let's move on to Brentford. Who is your favorite Brentford player?
I went with Mikhail Damsgaard, the Danish player. I think he just got there. No, he was there last season, but he didn't really play too much. But this year he's been integrated a lot more, and has been used mostly as the 10, but will kind of drift wide a little bit. But I picked him just because I think he's super creative and underrated with how kind of techy and good he is finding pockets of passes. And he's tied for second in the league in assists with 10. So that just kind of proves the point. You don't really think about him too much. He never really gets like talked about too much. I think part of it might have to go with the way he looks. He's kind of got a bit of a square head and some pretty gnarly receding hairline, and the hair is a little unkept and a little too long for how it should be. So if he had a little makeover, I think he would maybe get a little more talked about. Just my 2 cents, but I really rate him as a footballer.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned the haircut, because the reason he even came onto my radar really as a Brentford player was because I was looking at a post. I forget if it was like one of the major ones, like Bleacher Report or something like that, and they said who has like the basically like the worst like performance to haircut like ratio or whatever in the league, like who's the best player with the worst cut in the league. And I saw normal shouts like some people don't like Phil Foden. Some people were calling out Cole Palmer, but an absurd amount of people were saying Damsgaard, talking about how sick he was and how
Hmm.
sick in a bad way his haircut was.
Yeah.
Uh, and so it made me kind of like pay attention to him more. And like, I agree. I think he is a pretty silky baller and he's intelligent as well. And he's got a good amount of assists in the Premier League this season. And then on top of that, apparently, like from listening to other people talk about him, apparently he's also a big like the pre-assist, like the assist before the assist guy. Like just seems to be pulling the strings for what Brentford's doing offensively, and doesn't get a lot of love. I agree with that, so I think that's a great shout.
Yep. Who'd you pick?
I picked nobody on the sheet right now for Brentford, but if I had to pick one, I'd probably say Wissa. I think Mbumo is an obvious one just because he's such a great player that everyone loves. But if I want to be a little contrarian, I'll go with Jan Wissa just because he's someone that like I look at him and he doesn't look like, not that he looks like he wouldn't be good, but I think he just surprises me like every single time I watch him with like just how good he is. Like he's not the biggest guy, but for some reason he just always pops up in the right pockets. If you catch him one on one, like he's doing something good with the ball, and he's just a very quality player. Seems like he's got a good finish in him, and it's someone that I just find fun to root for. He's just a really fun player to watch for me.
Yeah, he gets tons of chances. He's one of those forwards that can really find the chance and put himself in the right place to be found by his teammates.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
he's also relentless. He's a relentless runner in behind. He'll always get onto crosses, and like I said, he's not that tall, but he'll get up for a header. Even though I don't think he scores too many of them, from my memory, but he will find chances, and that's one thing he's very, very good at.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So let's move on to Chelsea. I will go first for this one. My favorite Chelsea player, this was really tough to pick. I didn't want to have to pick anyone from Chelsea. We joked about that when we first brought up the idea, but I will go with Cole Palmer. Seems like an easy answer just because I don't really like anyone else on the team. Cole Palmer is at least a quality player and fun to watch. His talent is undeniable. And most importantly, he is a childhood Manchester United fan. Fun fact, he is from, I believe, Stockport, which is right outside Manchester, same town as Kobe Mainu. And they both kind of came up around the same time. And him being a big United fan, I listened to an interview that the United Academy U18 Academy coach did, and he's been in and around the academy for years. And he was saying way back in the day, Cole Palmer was actually really, really close to signing for United's academy. He just thought he might have a better pathway at Manchester City at the time into the first team, which we all saw how that went. Couldn't really break into the first team and ended up transferring to Chelsea, but had United had like a more clear pathway for him, I think he would have ended up a United Academy player, which would have been an incredible player for us to have at this point in time. But he probably wouldn't have developed into the player that he is now. So all shoulda, coulda, wouldas. But that is my pick from Chelsea.
Yeah, funny to think about how things would have been different, but like you say, you never really know. My player, I have Nkunku down on my notes, but I'm gonna do a last second change up and go with Reece James.
Sure.
Player I think is super quality at right back. Can score a nasty free kick as we saw in the UEFA Nations League tournament, where actually that was his first England goal, which is kind of crazy. But he is constantly injured, so that also plays a big role in that. But just super quality. He scored a nasty free kick, and yeah, I think there's not too many players at Chelsea right now that I like, but I do like Reece James. He's never really problematic. He's quality. It's just a shame that he's been injured so much in his career. A lot of FPL lore around Reece James. That's another reason to pick him. You want to bring him in because he's so talented. You do. He immediately gets injured. He'll come back after being gone for 6 months, score like 18 points, and everyone brings him in. He gets injured like the next week. It's a lot of funny stories. Listen to different podcasts like FML, FPL, people getting burned by Reece James over the years. But he is a great footballer when he is healthy and fit. And probably
I like that.
Probably their best player other than Cole Palmer when 100% fit.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think That's a great shout and a player that I didn't think of. But I would definitely rank him up there for my favorite Chelsea players as well. Just for every reason that you said, just such a quality player. Seems like a top professional as well, and I really feel sorry for him when it comes to the injuries. I don't know if I posted this on my story or if I just looked at it, but I saw a picture of him and Luke Shaw together, and those are like the story of two players that I think could just be so quality at the fullback position, but just both cannot stay healthy to save their lives. But I do feel for him. I hope he can get a run of form here and stay at least somewhat healthy to end the season.
Yep.
And then
just like
quick honorable mention.
Good.
Quick honorable mention for another player that just can't seem to stay healthy either, but Romeo Lavia. He actually was one of my favorite players to watch when he was at Southampton. I hated that he went to Chelsea, but not glad he's injured, but glad he's not playing for them regularly because I think he's a really good player that actually makes them a lot better of a team. And he just hasn't been able to stay healthy, but he's another player that's good. He's got a crazy passing range and just really good decision making for a player that's in that deep line midfield.
That's someone I've not really paid too much attention to. I need to, when he is healthy, pay more attention to him. Because like I know like he's obviously been in the league for a while now, but just like didn't watch too much of Southampton last year when he played for them, and then he's been injured a lot this season.
Let's see. All right, next we've got Crystal Palace on the list. Who is your favorite Crystal Palace player?
They've also got a good number of players at Palace that I like. Kind of like Bournemouth, not quite as many, but I went with Adam Wharton. Credible passer. Love watching a player that's got a really good passing range. He's someone that can play like those long passes on the ground, and it's so satisfying to watch when you take out 6 players or it cuts through like 8 players just by doing a little like shimmy, shake, turn, and then play a through ball, which we saw happen a couple weeks ago for Palace. And some of these long passes are Fabregas-esque, in my opinion. And I grew up watching Fabregas. He was my all-time favorite Arsenal player growing up. Still probably is, even that's debatable. Actually, he's not. Saka's definitely now. But I grew up on Fabregas, Fabregas was more mobile and would get up and score more goals than Wharton. But when Wharton does pick up his head and play those long balls, I've seen Fabregas do that a lot, many times. So I just love watching that really good long ball pass. He's really calm on the ball, just a future star, I think. Hopefully.
Yeah, I agree. I think Adam Wharton was one of my favorite players to watch last season. There's a United account I follow, and he was hyping Adam Wharton up back when he was in the championship, saying like someone in the Premier League needs to sign this guy immediately. He wanted to be United, and Crystal Palace beat everyone to his signature. And you could see why. I think, like you said, his passing range, his decision making, his IQ on the ball, and technique as well is just top. And so he's such a young player as well. I think he kind of got forgotten this year because he had some injury woes and couldn't really get into the team as much, couldn't really get a rhythm. But I think he's starting to find his form again just in time for the summer transfer window. Because at the end of last season, people were saying this guy's going to be a 100 million midfielder or close to it. Maybe not quite 100 million, but definitely like 75, 80 million midfielder just because of the quality he was able to show from that kind of like a deeper midfield role. So I'm really excited to see what happens with him in the future. I could see him. I don't know if anyone will make the move for him this summer. Maybe give him another year of development. I'm not sure, but regardless, it's a player that I love to watch on whatever team that he's on.
He doesn't really feel like a English player. He feels more Spanish the way he plays. Kind of like Busquets. Kind of almost looks like he's playing slow, but he's just 3 steps ahead of everyone else. So it looks easy for him when he's out there.
Yeah. Off both feet as well, I will add. I think he's a natural lefty, but it looks like he can play with like got almost like zero angle bias and like can play off both feet as well.
Nice.
For me, my Palace player, this was a hard one for me. I have 2 written down. I think I want to go with Mateta over Eze. You asked me this probably a year ago. I probably would have said the opposite. I feel like Eze's hype kind of died off for me this season. I feel like for him being like the main guy at Palace, he just hasn't been quite able to lift them in moments. And then Mateta is just like a fun player. Like I think he's more of just like not like a mean player for me, but just super fun to watch. The tucked in shirt Mateta vibes are just immaculate, and I love how Whenever he scores, he goes over and like kicks the corner flag, and the whole stadium goes boom or whatever. So I think he's just someone that's just super fun to watch, which is why I picked Mateta.
Yeah, he's kind of your classic big bully striker because he's so much bigger and stronger than everyone. But he is a lot more technical than just that. But he can be that as well. He's so big and strong, and that tucked in kid is so nice. Big fan of Mateta.
Yeah, me too. Just a class guy. Yeah, that's all I had on Crystal Palace players. Let's move on to Ipswich. This was another tough one for me. I'll go first. My favorite Ipswich player was Liam Delap. This was kind of just I ran out of players to pick. Like there weren't many to pick from. For me, I feel like they're just like
scraping the barrel.
They're pretty bad team, and then like just no one that really sticks out is super likable either. But I do like Delap. I think he's a super quality player. Really, really good. Like fast, can pass, has a really nice touch on him. Can dribble. Like I feel like he can really do it all from the 9 position. And I think he's someone that might be flying slightly under the radar just because he plays for Ipswich, but I could see him getting a transfer to a different Premier League team once Ipswich goes down and making an impact there. He did come from the Manchester City Academy, so as much as he's like this big brute guy that's got all the athleticism, he does have the technical quality that comes with coming up from the Manchester City Academy as well. And another thing I pointed out was like I love his mentality and his attitude. Another one of those players that just has like the perfect amount of arrogance and belief in themselves, and like when he goes out there, he looks like he's ready to battle and like he's not out there to make friends. Like he definitely is. I've seen him go out there and piss off 1 or 2 defenders that he's been playing against, including some United players when we played against him. But I think that's the type of player that like when you play against him, you probably hate him, but when he's on your team, he's someone that you love.
Definitely. Another player that's not afraid to shoot from literally anywhere.
Yeah.
But he will put it in the back of the net more than Semenyo will because he's got a rocket on him, Delap does. But my pick was Amari Hutchinson. I think the other really young talented player on Ipswich, and probably I don't know there's too many other young talented players on their team, but he's part of the England under-21s. And I picked him mostly because he's one of their few talented players, but recently Ethan Nwaneri got his first call up to the England U21 team, and Amari Hutchinson kind of came out and said he welcomed him to the team and kind of put him under his wing with the U21 camp recently. Nwaneri on his first start got his first start for the U21s, got his first U21 goal. So another kind of milestone for the Arsenal youngsters over this international break. So yeah, I see him. That's why I picked Hutchinson. I think Nwaneri is probably already better than Hutchinson, so kind of funny that he's the one taking him under his wing. But Nwaneri is new to the team, so I appreciate that. I'm sure Nwaneri appreciated that too. And seems like he's a good guy and good teammate.
Yeah, I like the Hutchinson shot as well. I think he's always been a quality player. I think he was at Chelsea for a while and didn't quite make it there. I think that's where he came from. But regardless, I think he's just a player that probably I like that he's gotten his chance at Ipswich to kind of show out and like prove his quality when he hasn't been able to do that in the past. I'm not really sure where he'll end up, if he'll like stick around with Ipswich if they go down, or if he'll try and transfer somewhere else. But regardless, I think he's a good player and is one of the more fun parts of Ipswich. That's all I had there. We can move on to Everton. Spain, who would you say is your favorite Everton player?
Another hard one because not too many talented players at Everton. Like the club as a whole, especially since David Moyes has come back. But players individually, not too many of them. But I went with Jack Harrison. He's an industrious winger that's been in the league for a good number of years now. Came up with Leeds and that really exciting Leeds team. I think he started most of the games for them. But the reason I picked him is because he played soccer for Wake Forest. He actually moved to the U.S. when he was a kid, got drafted #1 overall to the MLS by New York City FC. They've got a partnership with Manchester City, so he eventually signed with City and then made his way to Leeds. I think he was with Middlesbrough, then transferred to Leeds or something. But mostly prefers his American connection there, and the fact that someone played college soccer in North Carolina, where the state we're both from, cool to see you can make it to the Premier League.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool story. I forgot he was the dude that played at Wake Forest. Like I knew of the player, but like I didn't like put two and two together that was him. So that is really cool to see.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, he's someone. I also feel like he's got like a random like worldie in him. Maybe like once a season, twice a season or so as well. So fun
Yeah,
to watch him.
I think he knows what his skill level is. He doesn't never tries to do too much, but will always work really hard and will give it his all. But he will, like, every once in a while pull off something crazy.
Yeah. Let's see. For me, the player I picked from Everton was Iliman Ndiaye. I picked him because if he's just a player that I watched him play, like didn't know much of him, but every time I watch him play, I just think to myself, wow, that guy's pretty good. Like super silky, great ball carrier. Like I love a player that can just pick up the ball and either you like kind of like Wharton, how you can beat like 3, 4, 5 players with one pass. You can't really beat 3, 4, 5 players with one dribble, but if there's anything like that, I think Njai is the type of player that can do that. He is top 3 in successful dribbles in the Premier League this season on an Everton team that is probably known for sitting back and not having too much of the ball. He just is someone that like he goes out there and he makes stuff happen, and I think he does have like a little bit of output to go with him. Like his goals and assist numbers aren't crazy. He's only got 6 goals in the league, no assists, but I think that has more to do with Everton in general than him. And I think he's someone that's going to be a quality player regardless of whatever team he goes to. And then I also want to give an honorable mention to Jordan Pickford. He's just, I don't know, he's just a crazy, crazy guy. And for some reason, I just love watching him. I love the way he just is like so erratic and like makes crazy faces. And just he just looks like he's having a good time out there every single time I watch him play.
I can't stand Pickford, but I get what you're saying. He is crazy, and he does have a good time, that's for sure. But I don't like Pickford, but yeah, he does deserve an honorable mention. Real quick on Ndiaye, I think he's not nearly as good as this player, but I think he moves a little bit like Musiala, the way he kind of like throws his legs out kind of wide and stuff, and like there's a lot of kind of chops past players, but not as good. But similar dribbling style.
That's a very, very good comp right there. I totally agree. Like same carrying style where he can just kind of beat players and get in and out of tight corners, like kind of like Houdini himself out of like these situations. So I think that's a really good shout. And speaking of your hate for Pickford, I think it'd be interesting if we did like our least favorite players from each team.
Oh man, that would be great.
I've
got to do that in another series.
Yeah, exactly. But let's move on to Fulham. I'll go first for this one. For Fulham, the favorite player that I picked was Alex Iwobi. I can't lie, this was kind of just like one of those, I didn't really have much feelings for anyone on Fulham, so I just went with the guy that's got Nigerian ties, Alex Iwobi, and he also just seems like a cool guy off the pitch. Like I feel like he's really into streetwear and fashion, stuff like that, like I am, and then on top of that, he makes music. I saw Ola Aina and some of the other Nigerian guys watching his music video recently. He made music with I think, a decently popular artist. So really cool to see that. And he just seems like a very chill guy. So I picked him. And then, no, I keep cheating, picking 2, but honorable mention to Harry Wilson as well. I only picked him just because I feel like he is another one of those players that just kind of works pretty hard, and he's got a banger in him. And there was a run at the beginning of the season where he just couldn't help but score important goals, whether it was like game winners at the end or like game tying goals or goals to get them back in the games. I think he's just someone that kind of comes in and is always ready to take his opportunity, whether it's off the bench or starting.
Yeah, I remember his brace off the bench early in the season was pretty electric. But my pick, unsurprisingly, is another former Arsenal player, Emile Smith-Rowe. He is someone that was very sad to leave the club. I think it was time because I don't think he fits Arteta's system, and we need to get some money for him, and it's probably better for his career. It's a shame he was so injured last year, but he came up through the Arsenal Academy with Saka. They both came onto the scene around the same time, and really were some of the players that carried us when we were struggling and not looking too hot before Arteta came in and really changed things around. So it's hard to see him leave. I love the way he plays. He's kind of like swashbuckling is the way to describe it. He doesn't really look ever in control, but he is in control. He's a little stockier for a kind of attacking mid, but he will get through and has some incredible dribbles and solo goals. So he's just a really fun player to watch. and he's got the nastiest or the best technique for a knee slide, in my opinion, for the goal celebration. I like the way
Nice.
he slides and like stays very upright.
Hmm.
Big fan of a good goal celebration. I think he does the best knee slide. So that's
Nice.
a unique pick there, but little detail I really appreciate about him. And then honorable mention to the other American, Anthony Robinson. I think he's a fantastic player. He's got an incredible engine on him. I've loved to see him in the Premier League for years now and just lock down that left back position and make it his own. Plays like basically every single minute of every single game, bombs up and down that sideline. And this year, he's provided a lot of assists, so a lot of output to go with his the amount of work he puts in, and he's tied for second in the league at the moment with 10 assists. So
Yeah.
shout out to Anthony Robinson. He's also captained Fulham a good amount this year as well, I believe.
Yeah, it's been awesome seeing the season that Anthony Robinson's having. Seems like he's really kind of come into his own at this point and is contributing a lot to Fulham, and he deserves all the plaudits that he's getting. I will say I'm still salty that I benched his double assists. I forget what game this was, but 2 games or 2 times in the same game from the same spot, he just kind of laid the ball off for Iwobi, who puts in like a hopeful cross into the box, and the cross just happens to go straight into the net. And that still kind of pissed me off. And ever since then, I've been kind of down on Anthony Robinson from an FPL perspective, just because I don't think I got those points. But other than that, got nothing but good things to say about the guy.
Yeah, he's been the one player, I think the only player that's lasted in my team this entire season. Yep. I'm pretty sure he's the only player that's been with me since game week 1. So I like
Wow.
that. I like having that pickup.
That's huge. That's huge. Let's move on to Leicester City. This was another one that was really tough for me, but I'll let you go first. Who was your Leicester City player?
I picked Jamie Vardy just because he's basically a Premier League legend at this point. He's been around the block for a long time. He's got tons of goals. He's not like the most likable guy, but you gotta respect him for what he does, what he's made of his career. He drinks Red Bulls before the game. He just someone that doesn't really give a shit about anything, just does his own thing. Could care less about anyone. Loves to rile up the opposition fans. And a big reason why I'm currently a fan of him is because he's the taking the piss out of Tottenham recently with pointing to his jersey with like how many trophies he's won versus Tottenham winning 0. So he's a banter guy. He's funny. He's a legend. Yeah, Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, I think that's probably like the only logical pick from Leicester. He is, like you said, he's his own man. He's his own guy. Doesn't try to be like anyone else. Doesn't really care. Like he's almost like gives like fuck the establishment kind of energy. Like he just
For sure.
it does not care what people think about him, and I love that about him. He was so it is kind of still electric to watch, and my favorite part about him is the shithousery that he's got. Not afraid to let anyone have it, let anyone hear it, and like you said, as of recent, it's been awesome watching him taunt Tottenham. I think he did it in the first game, and then did it again in the reverse fixture as well.
Yeah, I think
and
we
then
mentioned this previously,
okay.
but they won like 8 games without scoring in a row, but except for when Leicester beat Tottenham, so
Yeah,
gotta love it.
so hilarious. And then honorable mention to because I was going to try and pick someone that wasn't the same as you, and I figured you'd pick Vardy. I also called out Buonanotte. He's a player that has been playing for Leicester this season. He played a lot more under what's his name, Steve Bruce, I think was their manager beforehand. But this since Ruud van Nistelrooy has arrived, him and Ruud have been butting heads. Apparently, I think there's like some news about how Ruud was like giving him shit for the boots that he was wearing, and like he just has struggled to get some regular minutes at Leicester in the second half of the season. But in the first half of the season, when he was playing more, he looked like one of Leicester's best players, if not their best player. Like I think he's just a super talented player that's stuck in a pretty shitty situation for him right now. But I think he's someone that he can go somewhere and find the right situation. I wouldn't be surprised if he pops up as a pretty quality player. I don't know where that team is going to be, whether it's going to be in England, or I could see him going to like Spain and succeeding or somewhere like that. But just a player that I think eye test wise looks good, even if he isn't quite lighting the Premier League up.
Yeah, a lot of talent left with Bonanete and young players, so I would also back him to have a good career still.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, this should be a good one. Liverpool. I guess I'll let you go first on the last one, so I'll go first here.
Okay, cool.
Um, my favorite Liverpool player is Trent Alexander-Arnold. Almost picked Salah, but something about Salah this season has pissed me off so much that like he's fallen out of my rankings. So I went with Trent, and I went with Trent because I think he is a generational player. I really do. I know people don't like him. I know people say he can't defend. I know they say that stuff, but I think he's way overhated. I think he is up there with some of the best playmakers in the world, and he's a right back. I think him and KDB probably have like the best final balls and like the best influence on the game from anywhere with a pass, I think, in the league. And so I think Trent is someone that gets overhated because he's on Liverpool. And then on top of that, like it's really easy to make these fail comps of him when he's not able to complete passes, or not, sorry, not complete passes, when he's getting skinned on defense and whatnot. But I think I am personally so happy to see him going to Real Madrid because he's been a player that I've loved to watch for years now. And it'll finally be fun to root for him because he won't be playing for Liverpool. And I also think he's going to go to Real Madrid and kind of silence and shut up some of the haters that we see now. I think this move will be good for him in helping him go down as one of the best to do it, to be honest. Just picturing the link up between him. I mean, imagine Trent just being able to pick up passes and pick out Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., and all these other players running in behind. Those late runs from Jude Bellingham into the box. I think it's going to be really special to see, personally.
Yeah, I was just about to say that diagonal ball to Vinny over the top is going to be ridiculous. It's going to be just too overpowered. Or Mbappe up top too, or Rodrigo, anyone. Yeah, he's kind of tailor-made to play with those forwards. And especially
Sure.
in the league where the pressing is as high and he'll probably find a little more time on the ball. It's going to be pretty lethal. I think that his long ball prowess.
Yeah. Yep. But who was your favorite player?
Yeah, I was also thinking Salah. Probably would have picked him a year ago, but this year he's been pissing me off. Partly because he's been single-handedly carrying Liverpool to their league title ahead of us, and just being inevitable in FPL. Even though I've been captaining him a lot, I haven't really gotten burned by him, but he's just been annoying this season. So I went with Szoboszlai. I think he just oozes class and quality when he's at his best. He strikes the ball really well. He works really hard, which is something I didn't not expect, but didn't know he had that engine in him. He's got nice hair. He's just a good, really solid player. I love a really dynamic beast of a center midfielder, and he is that, someone that can run, pass, shoot from distance, and score goals, and like be a leader. He's a really awesome player. I wish Arsenal would have signed him, but yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout. He is, like you said, kind of just one of those all-action players. Like you said, he's got the engine on him, but his ball striking is also pretty nuts, which allows him to influence the game both with passing and shooting. So I think that's a great shout.
I still think he's finding himself at Liverpool. Because when did he arrive? Was it halfway through last season? Was it
I think it was January last season, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't 2 full years, but I still think he's still pretty young, so I think he's got a lot to give. And once Trent moves on, if Salah moves on this season, who knows what's going to happen. But I could see Szoboszlai stepping up and becoming the main man in the next 3 to 4 years. So I'm not really sure how old he is, but I could see him kind of taking over and almost being like a Bruno for Liverpool, just kind of being like their guy. Honorable mention to Darwin Nunez, just because he's entertaining, he's chaos, and he makes me laugh a lot, and he's a lot of fun to banter and talk about with friends because he's just pure entertainment.
Yeah, I agree. Darwin He may not be this elite world beater striker, but he is entertainment through and through. Like, but for better and for worse. Like, he can pop up and score a brace against Newcastle to give them a surprise comeback win, but then he can also just miss the goal from 5 yards out and make you laugh. So you gotta love a player like that.
He's always going to do the unexpected, as you just described. So that's great.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So let's move on from Liverpool, and we're going to move on to my club, Manchester United. But I will let you start. Who is your favorite Manchester United player?
So I actually had a hard time. I was looking through the team, and I kind of wish there was like someone it was easy for me to pick. Actually, I just thought of one that's maybe a little better, but I'll stick with my notes. It's just like with United being so poor of late, I think so many players have been underperforming. Both the players' fault and the club's fault for that. But so it's hard to pick someone that I thought's been like fun to watch and just likable as being kind of anti-United person growing up as an Arsenal fan and United in my childhood always beating us and taking all our best players such as Robin van Persie. But I went with Kobbie Mainoo. I think he's been one of like the few players of like really good talent and quality at United in my opinion. I think he's young and talented. He's pretty calm on the ball. Got a good future ahead of him. Don't have too much to say about him, but I think he's just a talent, and I enjoy him. And I like him as a person too, which I can't say about many players such as Bruno.
Yeah, fair enough. I was going to mention that when I talked about my player, but I think that's a great shout. Kobbie Mainoo is going to be one of my honorable mentions, so I'll just talk about him now. But just super like. I think he is another player that I really enjoy for a similar reason to Marcus Rashford, to where he's from Manchester. I guess they call it Stockport. Is like the area of Manchester I think he's from, but came up through the academy, and I liked him a lot in the academy. Like, they were hyping him up through the academy for like 2 or 3 years before he even made his first team debut. And so it's just really cool to see a player get the level of hype that he got, at least in United circles, and then actually come through and be that player that they were expecting him to when he comes to the first team. He's had a little bit of growing pains this season, hasn't been able to stay fully healthy, and also like the switch to Amarim system is a little bit of a challenge for him. But he's just got so much quality, and following his story all last season, like with his debut versus Everton, him coming in so well, and then seeing the way he progressed all throughout last season, scoring big goals against Liverpool. He scored in the FA Cup final, and then went on to make starts in the Euro as well after not even having made his first team debut earlier that season. It was really cool to see his story, so that's been awesome. But for me, if I had to pick my favorite United player, this was really, really tough. Like I said earlier, I probably would have picked Rashford if he was still on the team. But I went with Bruno. He's really gained a lot of points in my mind, especially after this season. He's kind of gotten, he still has his antics in him, of course, but I think he's gotten rid of them, not rid of them, but reduced them a little bit, and then still kept the quality up as well. He's carried us for years. I feel like he's the one player at United that no matter what has happened over the last few years, he's just been relatively consistent. Like, he'll have his rough patches within seasons, but at the end of the day, you're going to get 15 goals, 10 assists out of him at least a season. And he's on track to have, in United's worst season ever, he's on track to have maybe his most productive Premier League season of all time. So really just enjoying seeing the way he's performing for us.
He might outperform what is his first season when he came in and had that crazy year.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting close, which is crazy to say.
First season, he came in midway through.
He came in midway through. That was the issue. He came in January.
That makes sense, it was only that half a season that was like the really insane.
I think it was like a crazy calendar year. Like, it was like a January to January run.
Okay, that makes sense. I remember it was crazy though. A lot of penalties in there, but I mean, regardless, he was scoring bangers and tons of goals.
Yeah,
it was a crazy run. Interesting fact that he might break that, but I guess it was what we just talked about. But nice.
Exactly, and he's like flying under the radar a bit, I think, just because United's been so poor, but just a super quality player, and I think he's showing it. Like, I think we've signed a lot of players to some new contracts and big contracts over the seasons, And it almost feels like as soon as we sign a player to a big contract, they just disappear for us. And Bruno's the one player that's shown he's worth every pound that we gave him. And then last honorable mention while we're on it is Garnacho. Him and Kabamenu were going to be my two honorable mentions. But Garnacho I picked because for the same thing I said about the lap, and I forget who the other player was, but just that arrogance that he has to him, I think I really love. His output has not been there this season as much as I would have liked, but he's a player that I just can't help but root for. And I love how much he backs himself. I love the kind of lore behind him with him having played with both Messi, but being such a huge Ronaldo fan as well, and kind of having those two guys to look up to and learn from. And then his bicycle kick versus Everton is like just one of my favorite goals I've seen from a United player or any player in general, to be honest. And just the audacity to try it and to convert it just encapsulates everything that I love about Garnacho. He just backs himself and, may not make the best choices right now, but I think people forget he's still super young, and I think he can still develop into a quality player.
Yeah, I've highlighted two players that love a shot, but I think Garnacho loves a shot more than both Semenyo and Delap. That man, once he gets the ball, there's like a 80% chance he's going to shoot. He gets it, he starts dribbling in, and he's going to find a way to get a shot off. So respect the man for always finding a shot because he loves to shoot the ball.
Definition of backing himself. And I feel bad, not I felt bad, but like in mid-season this season, I felt bad because when United were going through a really, really rough patch, like basically end of Ten Hag, beginning of Ruben Amorim, when things weren't going well, a lot of people were trying to scapegoat Garnacho, saying he doesn't give Højlund enough service, which is probably true, but I think it really messed with his head. And you could tell he started to second guess himself on the pitch a lot, not knowing, like at times when he maybe should have shot, he wasn't shooting. And then at times when he should have passed, he wasn't passing, and just kind of he went through a rough patch in the middle of the season to where he just seemed really low on confidence, and he's getting that confidence back. His decision making is looking better. He's got a goal and assist in like his last 3 matches, and he's looking to be like really. When our attack looks good, it is because Garnacho is playing well. So I'm just hoping to see that continue from a United perspective.
Yeah, you need to find a way to get him back to his best because when he is finding goals, he is very exciting to watch. I will say that.
Yeah.
I used to dislike him just because he was a United fan. I thought he was overly cocky, but he's grown on me a lot actually over the years.
Yeah, I actually have seen that, like, not to spend too much time on United, but I feel like I've seen that. That was like something that surprised me. Like seeing from rival fans, like my boss is a Manchester City fan, and then I've heard like Adam Modric doesn't really like him, and like just I've heard from multiple rival fans that people think he's like very arrogant and cocky and don't like him. They think he's kind of a rat player, which I mean I guess I understand, but like I didn't like I really before I started talking to these people I would have never guessed that that was like the rival fan like opinion of him. Like because if you I don't know I guess if you listen to his interviews and you hear him speak, he's actually a very humble person. Like really is kind of almost comes off as like shy. I guess he just backs himself on the field, and like his hair and his appearance is a little bit loud.
It's 100% his appearance because when I first saw him, that's exactly what I thought. Oh, they've got another rap player like Bruno, just because the way he looks, the shave into his eyebrows, the super blonde, wanting to look like and act like Ronaldo, basically. Who played at the left wing at United. I think that's really what it was. But he actually really has grown on me over the. I kind of do like the guy now.
Yeah. Very interesting to see. There's something I wanted to talk about before we move. All right. So moving on from Manchester City, I will go first here. I won't steal yours. I'm looking at the notes so I know who your pick is. So I'll pick someone else. My favorite Manchester City player, other than KDB, is Marmoush. He's a new addition, so he hasn't had enough time to kind of piss me off as a United fan. I think is really what it is. But he's a super exciting player. He just is super dynamic, and he's the type of player like I saw him make I think it was his debut against Chelsea, and he didn't even score, but just looking at him, I was like, oh yeah, this guy's definitely going to be a problem. Another player that definitely backs himself, and again has that arrogance trait. I keep referencing it, and that might be a pattern here, but those are just some of my favorite players, like players that really back themselves. to a healthy amount. And Marmoush was lighting up the world already. I think he was like top 5 in goals and assists across top 5 European leagues when he was at Frankfurt, and then came to City, and it seems like he's come right in and didn't shy away from the moment at all. Didn't shy away. Didn't need the league wasn't too big for him. He totally was like, I deserve to be here, and he played like that. And he's been really fun to watch ever since arriving at City.
Nice. That was gonna be my pick for the similar reason that he hasn't been around long enough for me to dislike him playing for City. He hasn't been on like the team that's crushed my dreams of Arsenal winning the title the past 2 years. But I thought about it. I'd hardly seen him play more than more than him joining City. And I had to go with Kevin De Bruyne because, as I've been mentioning through this pod, I do love a really talented midfielder, and Kevin De Bruyne was the best midfielder in the world when he was at his prime. He has fallen off recently, just isn't quick enough to move and cover the ground like he used to. But he's got an incredible passing range, both mostly long but some short passing as well. Can create on his own. Has a really good driving run, picking up from deep and starting a counterattack. Can score goals. He's one of the best midfielders in the Premier League of recent times. So I had to go with him.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't argue with that. He's played for City and still has been one of my favorite players in the league for years. And that's hard to do when you play for a rival team for me, but it's just his quality is indisputable. He is just the type of player that, like, I heard someone else mention this on another podcast, and I think he described it well, but he's one of those players, I feel like, along with like Trent and a couple other creative passers, where like the pass almost reveals itself. Like you see him hit it and you're not really sure what's going on, and all of a sudden it's just in the perfect spot for someone. And I think that's just like an amazing quality that he has. And so I think he's someone that just cannot be disrespected or talked down upon. It's been sad to kind of see his fall off at City, but it's really just a physical fall off. Like if you still watch him play now, and you can tell that like he's still technically like one of the best players on the team. He just doesn't have the physicality to really execute everything that he used to be able to do.
Mm-hmm. And with City's current lineup and squad, they can't afford to have him out there because there's too many players like that, and he's one of the players that is like the least mobile in midfield. But yeah, you made a great point about some of his passing. It's so satisfying to watch his passing because he'll hit it and it'll bend around like 5 different players, and it'll like come into a winger who was out of the picture, who runs on and taps it in. So yeah, just phenomenal passer and a joy to watch when he's not doing it against your team.
Yeah, exactly. And then I want to give a quick honorable mention before we move on to pre-City Haaland. I know that's cheating because we're talking about Manchester City players, but I will say Erling Haaland was one of my favorite players in the world before he went to Manchester City. Now he's much less likable for me. I still think he's a great player, but I have more fun rooting against him than rooting for him nowadays.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one.
All right. Let's move on to Nottingham Forest. Who would you say is your favorite Nottingham Forest player?
So the one I picked, I will let you pick because I saw your notes, and it's more fitting for you to pick him. But I went with Callum Hudson-Odoi, really good winger at Forest. It's been fun to watch him resurrect his career. I always love watching a Chelsea player whose career's fallen off because Chelsea are in our bad club and manage the players really poorly. It's awesome to watch a player leave Chelsea and start doing really well, which is the case with Hudson-Odoi. He's a really fast winger. He's a great dribbler, really direct, kind of runs at you a lot. And he's likable. I love him up top with Elanga on the other side, kind of just feeding it to Chris Wood. They do a lot of like the carrying, and the counterattacks are pretty fun to watch. And then their friendship with Olaine is awesome. But yeah, Hudson-Odoi is my pick.
Nice. I like that pick. I think he's a super quality player, super fun to watch. And as I've got to see more of him off the pitch as well, it makes him even more fun to root for. And that leads me into exactly. That leads me into my favorite Forest player, which is Ola Aina. I picked him because he's just that guy. He is the leader of Vibes FC over at Nottingham Forest. Seeing the way that he just is one, a quality player, but he brings up everyone around him, like Anthony Alanga and Calvin Hudson-Odoi, and seeing their friendship together has just been super fun to watch this season. I love that he does these Snapchat videos where you get to see a little bit more of these players behind the scenes and get to see them as real people and not just these players that you see on TV. He's also Nigerian, so I got to back my brethren there. I love seeing his content when they go and do the Nigerian national team as well. He just seems like the type of guy that you want him around in whatever room you're in, regardless of if you're playing soccer or not. He's just the type of person that you want to be around if you want to have a good time. Seems like I can't get enough of. He's done interviews with filthy fellas that you should watch out for, and then I forget the name of the other one that we were talking about the other day. I'm not going to be able to remember their names, but go check out any Ola Aina interviews that you can find online.
Yeah, there's the roundabout or something.
Yeah, something along those lines. But if you look up Ola Aina interview, it'll pop up. And then another thing I think that just adds to my likability for him is even before I knew anything about him, I didn't even know he was Nigerian, to be honest, when I first found out who he was. But I saw him playing on Forest early on, right when he had just transferred there. And I just saw the guy play and I thought to myself, this guy's kind of an underrated baller. I don't even know who this is, but he's kind of nice. And so just seeing the way that he's progressed and grown into the player that he is, he's been one of the best right backs in the league. I feel like this season, and then on top of that is a super cool guy. I just feel like he's got to be my favorite pick. I think I said this to you, but he might be my favorite non-United player outside of him and I'd probably say him and Soccer are my two favorite non-United players right now.
Yeah, he's so funny. He's awesome. I mean, you described him really well. Those interviews are really great. Would highly recommend listening to them. You can get a really good laugh out of it. The friendship, I really just want to hang out with him so bad because I know it would be a great time.
Exactly. Really, really good guy. But let's move on. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I found it funny when the one podcast he was talking about he really wanted to play for Tottenham, I think, because that was his favorite team, but his dad's it's too far. He was it was gonna be make his dream come true to play for his all-time favorite club. His
I
dad
think it was the other way around, actually.
Okay.
I think he was a Chelsea fan and his dad
was
a
Tottenham
Tottenham
fan
and wanted him to go play at Tottenham. And he said that Chelsea's academy was too far, but then he eventually won out. I forget exactly how it played out that he was able to go to Chelsea and not Tottenham, but that is hilarious, the Nigerian dad dynamic.
Exactly, yeah. Found that hilarious.
Yeah, I did as well. Moving on to Newcastle. I will go first with this one since you went first on the last one. My favorite Newcastle United player, this was pretty tough for me. I wanted to pick Isak, but Isak felt like easy, low-hanging fruit. But he is box office, so I'll give that shout out to him. But if I had to pick another player that wasn't Isak, I will pick Anthony Gordon. Not the most glamorous pick at all, but I watched an interview with Anthony Gordon. I think it was on the overlap with Gary Neville, and just getting a little bit of insight into the player that he is, or the person that he is, not the player that he is. Getting an insight into the person he is off the pitch and kind of understanding some of what he's gone through in his career as far as going from Everton and leaving his boyhood club to go to Newcastle and pursue greater things and kind of the pressures and how he dealt with that and whatnot. Just hearing him speak, he seems like a really, really grounded young player, and it's really cool to get pieces of that. And I think another thing that I really enjoyed is some of the preparation and all the work that he puts into being ready for games. He meditates and does visualization and just seems like a really top mental guy. And it was really cool learning all that depth about him, because I think when you see him on the pitch, he can be a little aggressive or just a little seem almost like a hothead. I think he had that reputation for a little bit, because there was a video that went viral of him. I think it was on Everton's bench, kind of throwing a fit at one point. But it was really cool to see how mature of a player that he is, and just all the work that he puts into what he does. And I think he deserves every bit of success that he has.
Nice. Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't have expected that, but really cool to see. Really respect anyone that does go those extra lengths to be mentally sound and prepared in a very, very tough environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think going back to the Everton thing, I guess to add a little bit more context there, I feel like Everton and Liverpool especially are two places where I feel like the Scousers have that like it's us versus the world mentality, and so like people that are from there, I think don't take kindly to outsiders, and so the fact that he left the Scouts community to go pursue bigger things, I think he got a lot of flack for that. But I think that's a really brave thing for him to do, and I can appreciate that journey from him.
Nice. Well, I will go with the low-hanging fruit for my pick. I went with Alexander Isak. I think he's phenomenal to watch. He's the best striker on form right now in the league. And yeah, he's great. He reminds me a lot of Thierry Henry, the way he kind of moves, got some longer legs, taller striker, can dribble past you, take you one-on-one, score in many ways, just get on the end of a cross. He's incredible to watch. Really, really top striker. And I'm praying Arsenal signs him this summer.
Yeah, I think he's an extremely, extremely good player. Really, really fun to watch. I think whenever I think of him, I think of that run that I think it was against Everton that he had last season, where he just takes it like all the way down the sideline into the corner, all the way past down the byline, and then lays it off to Murphy on the back post. But it's basically Isak's goal. He took on the whole team by himself.
He does it all the time.
Player, super talented. So he does. Like, I love watching him play.
Yeah.
I'm hoping Cheeto Obi at United turns into him, because he's kind of got a similar build and like has like similar skill set. Not quite to the level of talent that Isak has, but hoping that he can turn into that kind of player. And then what you said about Arsenal potentially signing him this summer, I think it will be really interesting to see where he goes, if anywhere. He's got a huge price tag attached to his name right now. Feels like you're going to need close to like $100+ million to get his signature this summer. So I'm really interested to see where he goes.
Yeah, he's going to be like 150 million. I mean, I think maybe like the market is a little bit lower now with like PSR and everything being harder to buy players, and just in general, players aren't going for the crazy money they were 10 years ago, like Neymar going to PSG. But he's one of the top talents in Europe, and he's going to be scary when he hits his prime and really like gets into the best possible team. Not that Newcastle aren't good, but to really get in like a really top team, he could have a 25-30 goal season.
Yeah, he could. I think another team that would be interested, like I think Arsenal is an obvious choice, and then another team that would be interesting to see him at would be PSG. I think he's someone that could slot in there pretty well with kind of that front line that seems pretty fluid. He can be a dribbly striker, so he can kind of interchange with the wingers, with Kvaratskhelia or with Dembele. They got Desiree Doué, who's also balling out for them. I think they could have one of the most lethal attacks if they could somehow get Isak's signature as well.
Yeah, that'd be scary. I don't think we're going to, way too early, I don't think we're going to sign him this summer. But yeah, it would be really scary if he goes to PSG, because they've got some really good young talent and are really changing the mentality around the club and kind of what the club looks like from an outsider's perspective and from the inside.
Fair enough. Okay, we're right around the corner. We are now at the 17th team, and that is Southampton. I will let you go first. Who is your favorite Southampton player?
Not too many players to pick on this terrible team. I went with Will Smallbone, though. I just think he's a funny player. I think his name is funny, and he's super bald. Just kind of funny-looking dude, to be honest.
He is. I can back that, to be honest. Yeah. I don't really, he is just like not like a meme player, but like definitely just someone that I feel like people know who he is just because he's exactly what you said. The name and then the look to go with the name is just objectively kind of funny.
Yeah. He did have that nice early goal. I think it was in Liverpool, I think he scored recently to kind of put some, not too long ago when Liverpool were going through a little rough patch, or kind of still, I guess, trying to come out of that. But he scored the early goal, or the first goal for Southampton, and they were holding Liverpool down one. They were holding Liverpool to 0 goals, up 1-0 toward in the second half. So that was a nice little memory since Will Smallbone scored that goal. Well taken, find himself in the right place, kind of right time. But yeah, funny looking dude with a funny name. But respect him. But yeah, don't know him at all, just for the funniness.
Yeah. I like that pick. I mean, like you said, Southampton's pretty bottom of the barrel stuff. I think Smallbone's a good one, and probably who I would have picked if I did not pick Tyler Dibbling. I think actually, like putting respect on his name, Tyler Dibbling is really, really good. I think even underrated because he plays in Southampton, who are so bad. But I think for his age, he's only 19 years old, and in my opinion, he's Southampton's best player by a pretty good margin. Super, super great dribbler. He just seems like he's a smart player as well. Backs himself. He looks pretty confident when he's playing, even though he's young. So can't really say a whole lot of bad things about the guy. The only thing that I would put as a knock against him, which isn't even him, it's a knock against the club, but Southampton have come out. First, it was Russell Martin that came out and was like, we want 100 mil for him or something like that, or like we won't hand him over. And then again, I saw briefings that Southampton are going to try and set his price tag at like close to 100 million, which is insane. Like I think he's a great player, super talented, like one of the best of his age group, but 100 million is crazy, especially for a team that's about to get relegated. So no way he actually goes for that. I think the max I'd pay for him is maybe like 45, 50 million, but I don't know. Regardless, super fun player to watch, and that's why I picked him as my favorite.
Yeah, if anything, you sell him for that much, and Southampton put like a hefty buy on clause, so they get like a 10% or 15-20% if they're really scared that he's going to go for big money in the future. I'm assuming they have him on a cheap contract because he's so young, so it's not going to hurt them if they keep him to go back down. It's not going to hurt them financially. So I'm assuming they really want to keep him because he is so talented and will be great for them in the championship. And like I said, it's not going to hurt them financially, which is why a lot of teams get rid of their top talent when they get demoted.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I know he can't be on a big contract because this is like his first professional season ever. So let's see. Let's move on to the 18th team, that is Tottenham Hotspurs. I think we both discussed we had some trouble with this, but I will go first. I know your pick because I can see it in the notes, so I won't say Son. And in order not to do that, I will pick. I've kind of got like a 1A or a 1A and 1B for me. First player I'll talk about is Jed Spence. I think he is a player that I've really enjoyed watching this season, actually. I remember seeing all sorts of controversy around his name just because I feel like he's kind of had issues with a couple. I don't know if it was only Ange. There might have been another manager that he had an issue with, but I just feel like he's someone that's been struggling to get into the team for one reason or another for a long time. And then watching him and seeing him play and seeing how good he is, it makes me wonder, like, okay, what was happening there? Because he seems like a really quality player. Seems like he can play off both feet. Seems like he can kind of carry. I don't know. Haven't watched too much of his passing, but in general, just is a really enjoyable player to watch. And I feel like he's got a pretty good story as well, as far as like, I think he was a really big reason that Nottingham Forest got promoted, and the fans over there love him still to this day for that. And then, I just like a player also, I guess to add to the Spence, I really like a player that patiently waits on his moment and then performs when it comes. And I think that's exactly what's happened to him. And he's been playing so well this season that some people are saying they think he should have gotten the England call-up. So really cool story from him. And then the other one I want to call out is James Maddison. He was a player that I liked before he went to Spurs, like him a little bit less now that he is at Spurs, but still a fun player. And I like him just because he seems like he's having a good time when he's playing. One of my favorite videos of all time is him. I think it's like at Bournemouth or some club. Like he's in front of the away fans about to take a corner, and he's like messing around with the ball, like not putting it right at the right spot in the corner. And he puts the ball down, moves it slightly, and all the fans go, "Hey!" And he like turns around and gives him like a little chuckle, and everyone's like, that's a good lad, man."
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of my that's a big reason why I like James Maddison as well.
Yeah, he does, and also the recent kind of banter with Roy Keane was also good from Maddison. So he kind of rolls. He hasn't had the best season, kind of hot and cold, I think, season for him, but he seems like a guy who's been around the block and can roll with the punches now that he knows how it goes down in England. So respect to both those players. Other than those two, there weren't too many others except for Heung-min Son, who was the easy pick. One of the other more really likable players in general that most anyone can like Not as likable as Saka, I'll say, but Son is definitely up there. He's got a great smile, just happy, nice dude who happens to be a really, really good footballer. One of the best finishers in the league that we've seen for a long time. So he can score some crazy goals. Does take many shots for him to score, but he will find the back of the net. Thankfully, he's been on the decline just because I'm an Arsenal fan. He's not doing us dirty anymore, and Tottenham are down. But he's been a fun player to watch throughout the years.
Yeah, I can agree with that. He would have been my pick just because he does seem like such a likable guy. He seems like he's got a great attitude and just a nice, like, good character. Seems like he's cares a lot for people and just has a good heart on him. And then on top of that, he scores bangers. He's got some of my favorite goals. I think there's one goal I remember. I was going to say I always remember. Now I can't even remember who it was against. I think it was against, I don't know if it was City, but there's one goal where he picked up the ball from like his own 18-yard box essentially and just went solo dribble all the way down and scored. And I feel like it's just so iconic, and he's given us moments like that multiple times. So I love to see Son. I love to see Son get his flowers, especially because he's been at Tottenham for so long, where they've just been underperforming. I think he's a player that kind of similar light of Bruno that just, I guess until this season at least, would consistently produce even if the team wasn't performing well.
Yeah, he's also been in a lot of fashion campaigns and has looked great in some of those fits. I'm not sure what his like personal style is off the pitch, but in some of those ad campaigns, he can really pull off some nice suits and some dope clothes. It'll be interesting to see what he does in the future, because I think his Tottenham career has to be coming to an end, just because he's on the decline. So I'm really interested to see where he goes, because he's been at Tottenham for so long now, and I haven't heard any rumors or really any talk about what's next for him.
I agree. I think that's a really good point, because even though his production has declined, I don't think Tottenham's doing him any favors, and the play style is doing him any favors. I think he could still go to a pretty decent team and still put up good numbers for a few more years here. So we'd love to see him get an opportunity somewhere else.
For sure. I could see him playing kind of up top, not by himself, but as a left forward with like maybe a two striker system or something, or just playing like more as a left forward and not a winger that needs to track back as much, just because he can't, just not as mobile. He really is like getting his shot off has been his issue lately. So if we can go to like a Lee, I guess it isn't as challenging. He still has got more to give, more goals to give for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about his like out of possession stuff, but I mean, the way you were describing that, like I don't know, if United want to put out a little flyer on Son, throw him in one of those like left 10 position, because he doesn't have to do as much tracking back there. I mean, could be an option, but I don't think I want to bet on a player of that age profile. But yeah, I do like
the wages
as a player. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Let's move on to our last two teams. The next team is Wolves. Spain, who's your favorite Wolves player?
I went with Strand Larsen. He is the likable big Norwegian striker in the league, because nice. Holland is pretty unlikable. I just think he's a solid player on a team that doesn't have too much excitement going for him. It was Cunha, but I knew he was going to be your pick, not to spoil it. So I didn't want to pick him. And yeah, I mean, he scores goals. He's a big dude. He's on loan from Celta Vigo, which I didn't really know that until I had to look it up to be sure. But I think he's a quality player. It'd be interesting to see if he stays with Wolves after this. I think he's definitely got a place in the Premier League if a team wants to take a chance on him. He can score. Yeah. He can score his goals and be a good signing for someone.
Yeah, I agree with all that as well. I think he's been someone that's, whenever I do watch Wolves, he does look kind of like you said, eye test wise, he looks like a good player. Hasn't always been. I feel like Wolves as a team just haven't been able to produce goals as much, which has probably hurt him in that department as well. But I still think he's a good player, relatively fun to watch. I think if I had to pick a player that wasn't Cunha, it would have been him or Aït-Nouri, would have been my picks from Wolves. But spoiler alert, my favorite player from Wolves is Cunha. I think that's a pretty easy pick. He's just a box office player. He scores bangers. He has cool touches. He is such like an interesting combination of he has that Brazilian flair and technicality, but also is just like a supreme athlete as well and can get up and down the pitch. Great ball carrier. I just can't really say enough good things about the guy. He's just a little bit of a hothead. I wish he could calm it down a little bit at times, but super quality player. He's got 17 goals and assists in the league this season, which is a good return in a very poor Wolves team. At times, it looks like he's like a one-man show out there. And then another thing I want to call out is that I think it's really stand up of him to he signed a new contract with Wolves knowing that he's still trying to leave this summer. He just signed a new contract so that Wolves could get more money from his transfer. And he's got a 62 million pound release clause in his contract now, so that if any team wants to sign him, they're going to have to pay that or at least get close to it to get Wolves to budge. So I think that's a pretty good move for him as well to give them a little bit of respect on the way out.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a pretty reasonable buyout clause. Like, it's nothing absurd. It's not like $100 million or anything. It doesn't sound like Wolves are trying to like make him force him to stay, but they're like making it reasonable and kind of pushing or letting people know this is what we're willing to part for him for, or you can bid something less and we'll negotiate on that.
Yeah. So I think it's a good scenario for both the player and the club in that situation.
Mm-hmm. Another player would be interesting to see where he goes, if he'll stay in the Premier League or go elsewhere. He's a Champions League quality. He's a Champions League quality player, so he should go somewhere where he can play Champions League football.
I was just going to say the same thing. He's someone that I think could succeed in just about any situation. So even if he doesn't find suitors from the Premier League, I think he could still find himself at another top team and perform well. And then let's finish it off. Last but not least, we have West Ham. And I will start with my favorite West Ham player, which is Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And as you can guess, I picked him because of the Manchester United ties. He's someone that I have loved to watch him, even if he hasn't been the best player for United throughout the years. He was someone that I always loved to root for. He just every once in a while will pull out something that was just incredible. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but like he could do so poorly for so long, but all of a sudden like dribble like 3 or 4 City players and put the ball on a platter for another player. He started out his career as a winger, so he still kind of has those winger tendencies at time, even though I know his biggest criticism at United was that he didn't have the output or the final ball to contribute in the final third as a fullback. But I think he's starting to at least beat those allegations a little bit at West Ham. It might be a product of West Ham being so poor that they need somebody to step up. But just to give you a couple stats that support my Wan-Bissaka propaganda here is he has the second most minutes played on West Ham this season, and then he's been like one of their main playmakers if you watch them play as well, which is something that, like I said, he got criticized for at United. Only got 2 goals and 2 assists, but that's from the right back position, and that 2 assists is tied for second most on the team this season. His 2 goals is tied for like top 5, I think, on the team as a fullback, and then he's also number 2 in dribble success rate across the whole Premier League this season, which is like his winger tendencies coming out. I think he's getting to show that a little bit more at West Ham than he was at United. So just a player that I think is a bit underrated just because his United career didn't grow as planned, but just super fun to watch. Also love that he can tackle anybody as well. That was like his standout quality. 1v1, you can't get by him, and I love watching him play for that reason.
Yeah, his extendo leg slide tackle is quite unique trait that he has, and it's one of his kind of traits that is a Wan-Bissaka thing. His trademarked slide tackle is what I was going for. And one of his assists this season was against Arsenal in a crushing loss that we had, 1-0 loss we had to West Ham that basically put the sword in our title chances. So he did dust, I think it was Lewis Skelly. No, it was Calafiori. He dusted Calafiori and put it in a nice cross. Mm-hmm. Not that Calafiori is the greatest one-on-one defender. So nice pick there. But my pick is James Ward-Prowse, just because of his free kick taking abilities. He's someone that's got a really, really good quality in him. Been around the Premier League for a long time, mostly with Southampton. Finally moved to West Ham. Not had like the most prolific career, or like been like the most outstanding player, but he does put in a nasty free kick. So that's really why I picked him.
Yeah, I think that's a great option for a player. I think Ward-Prowse is just someone that I think is going to go down as like a streets won't forget type baller, where he just hasn't achieved the greatest things in the Premier League, but if you watch him, you know the quality's there, especially from like the set pieces, whether it's corners, but mostly his free kick taking is just absolutely elite. Love watching a player like that, so I think it's a great pick.
Could watch highlights of him forever on taking free kicks.
Yep. Exactly. But that is it. That rounds up our favorite players in the Premier League from each team. I thought that was a good little back and forth that we had there. I think we pulled up some good names here. I tried not to be too mainstream with them and pick obviously just like the best player on each team. Try to give some good reasoning behind why we picked the players. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think many people are picking Will Smallbone in their favorite players list. So
definitely not.
And one random aside, speaking of Jed Spence and Aina, did Jed Spence leave? Leaving Forest, is that what opened the door for Aina to come in to play right back?
That's a great question. I don't know that off the top of my head. I know it's similar timing, but I'm not sure because I don't remember when Nottingham Forest got promoted. Because I know, what was it, last season they were like as low as 17th. Does that sound right?
Yeah, they were one of the bottom teams outside of the relegation zone.
And then the season before that, I don't know if they had a similar season or if that's when they were in the championship and got promoted. That's something I definitely have to look up. But that would be interesting if that was like how that came to be.
Mm-hmm.
So in 22, so yeah, they've been in there for 3 years. No, I think Jed Spence left after they got promoted to the Premier League. Mm-hmm. And then they got promoted to the Premier League in 2022-2023 season. I don't think Aina was there. I think he came. He joined July 2023, so he was there for the 23-24 season. So yeah, he joined last season.
Okay. So Spence had already been gone for one season by then?
Yeah, Spence had been gone for one season, so I'm not sure who he replaced in that Forest team, but that's probably why they were trying to fill that gap there. But yeah, I think that is all we had. Thank you guys for joining. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a comment if you're listening on Spotify. And yeah, I'm excited to get another one of these out to you. That's all I had.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Peace.